Hey, what's up with the broad? She been staring at a picture all day. Something about not getting into Grab by 3%. Ooh, feel like someone wanted to kill me. Right, that onto today's grab.
He is so...
My loyal fans! Hey, hey!
任務を遂行する。終わりだ。
Today we are going to be looking at one of my favorite grapplers. I tend to put off my favorites as I want those types of videos to be perfect. This guy stood out with his stature and the amount of dunks he could do in a single combo. But what's up fellas, Panda here. In today's video we're going to be looking at the grappler that can grab you from anywhere.
Hey, why am I over here?
Cause last time you were choking me, bud. Yeah, that's why he's over there. Learn his lesson. So I'm feeling a wee bit ill, so do excuse me. But let's talk about what a tag fighter grappler was. A tag fighter grappler like Hagar tends to have abysmal neutral, probably worse than like usual 2D grapplers, but they make up for it by exaggerating what the grappler is. So when he gets in, his strength isn't just, oh, he can open you up very easily. His strength is, oh, he'll open you up. There is no in between. If he gets you, he's gonna get you, and it's best to give up your resources to get away from these types of players. Now you know what a grappler wants. It's time for the game of today. Get ready for the ultimate showdown. Sparking Dragon Ball Fighters. Dragon Ball Fighters is probably one of the best looking fighting games ever. There's totally no bias. I'm not a Dragon Ball fan, what?
Kakaroto!
I didn't do that. But yeah, no, I'm actually a massive chronic Dragon Ball fan. Big fan of it, always have been since I was a kid. My first movie was the Lord Slug movie, and I've just been addicted since. And I'm just saying, go for all my accounts, you'll see I'm just a nerd for this, and my Dokkan account is very sad when you realise I'm free to play. Like that, Dragon Ball Fighters was a very dynamic tag fighter. It has a massive roster of characters. Shame like 9 of them are Goku. The game released in 2018 and it was all I was looking forward to. I dropped Tekken 7 for this game, and it was also the first game I went to my locals for. It was right next to the college. Let's talk about gameplay mechanics now. When you get to the character select, you will see the first main mechanic being assists. You can choose between 3 different assists, and the third assist was a very souped up version of it, being a tracking assist that gave easy combo follow-ups and could do anything you wanted it to. Great in every situation, so to compensate for this, the cooldown on it takes a little bit longer compared to other ones. Everybody remembers fighting all blue, all fusions, UI with C assists. I love creative-based fighting games where my opponents are so creative. You're picking your free, you hop in the game, and there are many mechanics staring right at you. It was a 4-button fighter that went from light to heavy and also had a special button. The Gatling system is here for block strings and combos, the usual that you'd expect, and the S button, the special button, was used for key blast to send out projectiles or maybe a beam if you did the right input. There was also all combos, which range from, oh, it's a pretty good mix-up too, I like that, to how far can he jump? Your mirror can build up to 7 bars, which can be used for many things. Either doing a super of 1 bar, doing an involve super that did a ton of damage with 3 bars, or linking supers back to back with DHC. Also, this game did something very interesting for a tag fighter. It gave you enhanced special moves. If you used heavy for your special moves, it would take half a bar meter to do an enhanced version of that move. For Goku here, He'll always teleport in his overhead, so he'll never miss, and it's a pretty good neutral tool to just throw out there sometimes. You can also use a bar for guard cancels where you'll Z-vanish to escape. And speaking of Z-vanish, this tool used one bar and it let you escape out the corner, or it lets you do more combos. And there's some funny scenarios that you can get going like this. Your normal throw was Dragon Rush, where you would lunge forward and hit him with a Dragon Ball Classic beatdown to get a full combo. But if you use this in a combo, it changed into a hard knockdown tool, great for Oki or cashing out with supers. The neat thing about the game was the movement. It was universal. Dashing, air dashing, double jumping, floating, you name it. There were a few exceptions to the rule like Master Roshi, but overall, very universal. So I had super dashing, which all locked onto your opponent for combos on hit, and this mechanic can be very janky at times. There was also active tags can be done by holding tag during blocking or comboing, and comboing you didn't use a bar, but if you use it as a guard cancel, it used a bar or meter. It was worth using if you wanted to save a fella on low health. When you get down to your last character, you gain access to a limit break, which makes you do more damage, and now you can do level 1 into level 3. You also got sparking, that got more enhanced with the more dead teammates you had. Boosted your damage, it gave your vanish as a cancel where you'll actually do nothing, great for either mix-ups or doing unique combos. And your super dash goes straight into attacks on block, whereas before you had to wait until it recovered. Finally, you had the Dragon Balls. The Dragon Balls were unique. Basically, you'd collect one every time you did a light auto combo starter and end. There were 7 to collect between you and your opponent. But the neat thing is, you could actually gain a Dragon Ball by doing the specific combo number, like 50 and up, or 40 and up. If you collected all 7, Shenron would be summoned, and either one could go for it. And when you did this, you gotta make a wish, bringing back a dead teammate, becoming immortal, or gaining another sparking. This was mostly a joke mechanic, as it never really came to play to competitive play, and if it did, my goodness. This game had a ton of mechanics, and Jesus, look at that runtime. I was trying to be fast as well. You know the game, it's time for the Grappler of today. The machine that protects for the birds. Android 16.
I have to at least try.
I too am in this video, but I'm not. So you know what?
So I just want to say, I emailed this guy like 6:30, which is like 1 o'clock if I had to guess where he is in America. He sent this in 5 minutes. What a real G. Android 16 is one of my first loves when it comes to tag fighters. Him alongside Cooler and Z-Broly, that was the team for me. A lot of people dubbed this team Can't Get Through Doors. He joined the base roster as the official grappler. His moves were limited as he didn't fight much in the manga and the anime, so the devs had to get creative when designing him. So they focused on the robotic side of him and how much 16 kept slamming Cell in the anime. Also, fun fact, I used to run 16, Frieza, and Vegeta, which is the exact same team that Elthyro plays, and whenever I played them in the viewer matches that he would host, people used to refer to me as Evil Elthyro. The same happened when we ran Videl, and you can't blame me, Vegeta was a good partner in that team, Videl was ass! But we gotta talk about the backstory as always, and I actually like this because I love Dragon Ball, so I'm gonna yap about it. Android 16 was based off Dr. Jiro's son who passed away during a shooting accident. He made the machine before 17 and 18 but never got round to finishing him, as I'm assuming is it reminded him too much of his son. When he came out, he was fully robotic and had one goal: get Goku. However, for exploring the world and seeing all of its beauties with nature, birds and the like, 16 became a peaceful being who wouldn't fight unless he was provoked. Through this, he ultimately lost his life against Cell trying to blow him up. Through his final moments, he gave a speech to Gohan to help motivate him for battle. 16 passed away with no way to bring him back, although there are ways, but lol, I guess. Android 17 became a park ranger just to honor his legacy. The future turned out for the better because he existed. A tragic story that's quite enjoyable of the gentle giant. It hits hard for me because that's my boy right there. Cool fact, people tend to compare Android 16's design and backstory to that of Astro Boy, as it's very similar, with a scientist losing his son and trying to recreate it through robotics. And there's also the thing that they both have very weird designs. Now that we're done with the backstory stuff, we have a big thing to address, which is how do we approach this video? Android 16 has had many iterations because this game has been around for 8 years. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the most modern iteration and maybe mention some things that happened in the past. We'll also cover the weaknesses before the positives, as he became a pretty solid character at the current point we're at right now. One massive problem was his size. Characters didn't have varied speeds in this game, so he didn't have the slow problem. But being big and attack fighter can only spell disaster, as getting hit was only a matter of time. This also led to getting stuck in offensive sequences called fuzzies. These open people up who use basic defensive tactics, and 16 players had to learn so many layers of defense if they ever had to block. This game also didn't have varied health either, so if you got hit, you were taking the same amount of damage as GT Goku, and he is like a quarter of the size of you, and he's way harder to hit. One thing that did suck on 16 was his ranged attacks recovery. His key blast tracked, which is great, but on whiff they were really punishable, so you could super dash through them, or if you made them whiff through jumping or tanking, he was gonna get punished every time. So it was hard to bait super dashes on 16. Your meter gain was also pitiful, and this is something that 16 was affected from like the first nerf that he got back in the day, because 16 used to be a top tier of amazing Oki. They got rid of the Oki, but then kind of brought it back, and then they made his meter gain awful since then. One nerf he's still feeling to this day. This was a tag fighter, so having these weaknesses were okay, but let's talk about what made him dunk-tastic. First thing to note are those normals. He had some far-reaching ones like Standing Light, or any of the M's, or those iconic Heavy. The normals had solid reach and could double up for a full low block string into heavy. They were all minus, so it was hard to stagger with Android 16, but the heavies were iconic for letting you play gorilla neutral in the first patch of the game, as it let you tank anything, projectiles, hits, you name it. But he came across a massive nerf, so it made it so heavies will only let you tank normals, but anything that was a low or projectile or super, you ain't tanking nothing. That being said, it was still fantastic. The reach on it was good, it was very safe, and if you got the hit next to the wall, you got a full combo without super dash. This is really good. So what did 16 do to stagger? Well, he had to rely on his trusty hold hands, and I mean that in a robotic sense. No normal was plus on block, so he needed to do assist to reset pressure. However, he had this blast move that is +8 and only +3 on a reflect, meaning this was always your turn if blocked or reflected. If you did light, you'd always interrupt your opponent unless they picked DP. It was a great reset tool that your opponent had to challenge or use meter to escape. All these attacks can lead into your grappler game plan as well, so any of these lights, +8 blast, you could go straight into command grab if you wanted to make them guess. His command grabs were super interesting. He had a grab for every angle. Light Dynamite Driver was your main mix-up tool that came out in 16 frames. It gave knockdown pressure with potential linked into super, and this makes the grab go from 15% with knockdown to 16% with 5 bars a meter. His medium and heavies were different. Being super slow, they were given projectile involved, and they gave a combo and a catch. The distance on the heavy one was insane, by the way. He also had air throws with Dynamite Driver going up. This was great for combos, but not so much for anti-airing. The heavy one was great for anti-airing, or you want to use crouching heavy, but you really didn't want to use the normal ones as they were kinda bad on the invul. But what makes this grab good is reset steady. If the opponent keeps teching up, you could do the anti-air Dynamite Driver to reset them and use the assist for a pickup. And if they tech down, you could do the grounded Dynamite Driver. And it was a fun game plan because if they matched after teching down, guess what? You picked heavy. The game plan of dunk resets is a addictive. I've had full games where I've sat there for like a solid minute doing dunk resets, and then when I finally got my assist or I got my bars, I cashed out. But his supers were also hype because they had multiple factors to consider when using them. They were both the same animation, but one put him up in the air, and the one that put him up in the air gave you good knockdown pressure, but did a little less damage. But the one that was grounded did a lot more damage, but didn't give you much knockdown pressure. So if you wanted a safe jump, you did the one that put him in the air. And if you wanted the damage, you did the one that left him grounded. In neutral, we already know he uses the dynamite driver to approach and uses the heavies as well. What else did he have? He had Rocket Fist. His rocket punches would track the opponent and you'd get a combo because of the heavy command grab we talked about earlier. The full screen yeet potential was so good on this projectile as it was easy to hit confirm. And this was cool because you always had a way to confirm after shooting your fists. So Rocket Fists are just rad. Awesome decision, honestly. It's worth mentioning his Rocket Fist because these were also his assists. He used these tracking key blasts that have heavy block stun and gaps for setting up high, low, and left, right. There's a ton of cool creative freedom that comes with it, and also fun combos. It was like a Build-A-Bear assist, and it was considered one of the best ones in the game. And if the opponent super dashed it, well, you just wait for them in anti-arm. Finally, we gotta talk about level 3s. He had one of the best ones in the game, being his Hell's Flash. And the animation on it, whoo! Just fantastic, give you a ton of damage and it let you run knockdown pressure, so you couldn't go wrong with it if you want to end a combo, and it also had some invul and was a grab, so using it on defense wasn't a bad idea. However, he had another level 3 that was extremely situational and very gimmicky. He'll do this grab where he'll lunge at the opponent with full invincibility, and if it lands, he will nuke them, destroying their health with 50,000 damage. Characters have 10,000 health, by the way. He'll put himself on 1 health, and if the enemy team still has a member alive, they'll come back with 7 bars of meter. This only happened if it landed raw, which was insanely difficult to do. But if you did it in a combo, it would actually be one of the more damaging level 3s in the game, but you still put yourself in 1 health and you still give your opponent 7 bars. So this was a risky play to go for unless you knew you can kill. But it was really funny to use this if you wanted to mess with someone and you knew it was a lower skill level than you. So 16 was a sick grappler that was designed to grab you from anywhere on the screen. There's no safe place on the screen to be when fighting them, and I think that's what they try to focus on in the design when making this tag grappler. When they focused on Hagar, it's like, yeah, we want to focus on his up close pressure. We don't really care what he's doing all this and all here, right? Whereas with 16, we're like, we want you to think about command grab from full screen. And I find that is an awesome design for such an exaggerated hyper fighter like Dragon Ball FighterZ. It was also well balanced. He could work into any team as he had one of the best assists in the game, like mentioned before. And he was a character that could get easy combos with assists as he always brought them down to the ground, so you couldn't go wrong. Extremely well balanced for once. So he was an amazing grappler that really suited any team you threw him in, and he was fun to play. But we gotta ask, who were the fellas that made him work?
Oh my god. At the end. Tuesday, a child's game. This is a yeah. Post Dragon Ball. Cut off, man. The deal in 16 is right on one situations. You don't want to ban them. The 16s win that, and you should have it about it. Doing a lot. The activated losing. They're so great with that situation. they went with the bell shirt. No problem resets. Dude, that was a good medium grab. I think that's cool on Form. And you're dead. You gotta always be careful for outcomes against this time.
16 players really stood out with this character. They can't believe there's still some people that are still making them work at turbines this day. It's just an exciting grappler watch. The idea of being grabbed from anywhere is just awesome. I can't wait to see the future Dragon Ball fighters when Daima Goku releases, and I can't wait to see how 16 is still going to be played in some of these more offline onlines, casually or whatever. But point being, 16's design was fantastic as a grappler can grab you from anywhere, and I hope to see something like that again. And I also want to say thanks to Lethyro, honestly. Like, I shot this email at him 6:30 in the morning asking if he wouldn't mind doing a cameo, and he said boop, and he sent it within 5 minutes. Very awesome. Genuinely shocked that he did that, and I really appreciate that from him, and I hope if he does see this video, thank you very much. Really means a ton. But be sure to say hi to the Terrapins, and I want to say thanks for the love on the last Grappler. We covered Beowulf and Sasquatch, a lot of love was on that. And I want to hear what you want for the next Grappler, because I think I might cover Vice, as it's only fair. She was second place after all in the voting. That being said, 16 was an absolute treat to cover, and I hope you enjoy your time in the Grappler Church. See ya!
逃がさないよ。
I'm sorry?